Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to us. And thank you for the response I'm getting on Facebook. And I hope before long, I'm going to be spread out over about 18 different platforms in which I already am. But I've got a team now that's going to put me out there a little bit further, a little bit better, because I'm not a techie person. And you all know that. I just telling my guests I'm going to share, a couple of pictures. I just learned how to do that here lately. I mean, that's about as techie as I get, really. But I want to, you know, introduce this lady, and she's got a real background in investigations, documentary films. Her name is Brit Elders. You might know her from Billy Meier. Uh, I guess the like all the Billy Meier coverage and everything she's been involved in, and we'll talk about that, and we'll get there. But Brit Elders is an investigative author and documentary filmmaker who traveled the world exploring a variety of topics, including the mysterious world of UFOs. She has participated in several in-depth investigations, including Billy Meier and the Billy Meier case and the waves of UFO sightings in Mexico. That's still going on, I think, Britt, isn't it?
It
Uh,
is.
so, which began in 1991 and continues today. There you go. The CEO of ShirleyMacLaine.com. She knows Shirley MacLaine very well, talks to her every day. They're good friends. And I'm sure there's going to be some questions in the comment section about that, about how she knows Shirley MacLaine. We'll talk about that a little bit. Shirley MacLaine is a great actress. Of course, everybody that's my age and even a little younger would probably remember her. You see her on the older movies, and she's 90 years old. What Britt told me, she's going to make another movie, and that's great. Britt continues to research and write for herself and others, and she's got her latest book out, and we're going to talk about that pretty quick. So, Britt Eklund, thank you for coming on the show, the Dave Emmons Strange Reality Show. And what do you got to say for yourself today? What's going on with you today?
Dave, it's been busy. I mean, it's great. We just re-released Contact from the Pleiades, volumes 1 and 2, the 45th anniversary edition,
Right.
being very well received. It's taking up most of my time.
Wow. Yeah. You're doing a lot of interviews, I guess, too.
I am enjoying it thoroughly because there's so much to share. And I know, as a host of a show and all of the people that you interview, people just want more and more information. So anything we, your guests, can provide, I think is of value to them. And that's what we're trying to do, all of us. We're just
And
trying to share.
and I want to thank you, Britt, for actually influencing people and garnering enlightenment for them, I guess. And
Right.
that's what we want to do. And that's what I'm doing. I've had these experiences myself, written books, and but I'm curious. I want to find out what it's all about. And always bits and pieces of the puzzle comes up every time you talk to somebody or meet somebody like yourself,
Right.
who's a professional investigator and a writer and author. And and you belong to this new group in Hollywood now. What's the name of that group? You want to bring that up?
The Hollywood Disclosure Alliance.
Right.
And it's great because it's a group that what they do is they're putting Hollywood directors, producers, writers together with experiencers and with people that have done investigations into the phenomena so that we get more of a real feel in movies rather than the fantastic great brains like Steven Spielberg has, but put it into more of a reality context. And I just think they're doing a wonderful service for the people out there. It's a brand new group. I'm one of the founding members. Steve Bassett is behind it. They're going to be at Contact in the Desert here coming soon, doing a lot of different things out there. And they're just a group of people that want to share information, but share it so that it can be utilized in a way that films and books and plays, things like that, creative things, have a basis in reality.
Mhm. Now, you mentioned Steven Spielberg. Do you think that these guys, I mean, they're rubbing up against elbows of the big shots. Of course, they're big shots themselves and they're rich. Do you think they're getting ideas from the government? And that's the reason why Spielberg gets some of these things in his movies, Britt?
I'm not sure if it's from the government or if it's from the off-world beings.
Really?
I think it's very possible that a lot of them have just an openness about them, a curiosity, and so that becomes something that is an attractive agent to bring in thoughts from off-world beings. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. I like that idea. You know, directly. You know,
Well, I think we all have that capability if we're open, if we're curious. You have to be curious.
right.
If you're not, you're never going to move forward. But that curiosity, I think, brings things to you. And I think with Spielberg and some of the others, the people that did Tron, the people that, have done all of these, Starman is a great example.
Yeah.
I think these people, whether they recognize it or not, had a little influence from above.
Right. Have you ever been in a movie yourself? I know you make documentaries.
I do documentaries. Every now and then they throw me in front of a camera on the documentary side, but no, I am not an actress. I don't want to be an actress. Not my thing.
Shirley MacLaine didn't pull you or yank you into any movies, right?
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not interested. I am strictly into nonfiction,
Mm,
into fact. I'm not into movies. I
okay.
can't even remember half of the ones she's done.
All
I
right.
mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, I know. I love her movies, and I think I saw one here just about 2 weeks ago, and she was really young. When
Hmm.
she first started, probably only 19, 20 years old, I think, when she
Uh,
started, something like that.
yeah, she was 19.
Yeah, and I think they paired her up with men that were in their 30s. Back
Yeah,
then, that's how they used to do it,
yeah.
get the older men. But uh, I'm going to show the people now just to share uh, your book cover. It's not coming up. Isn't that something? There we go. It should come up now. Okay. It's just a matter of punching it several times and waking it up. It's UFO Contact from the Pleiades. Could you tell us how you come up with that title and what that might be about?
Well, when we got involved with the investigation in 1977, we had all of this physical thump on it, hard evidence that needed to be analyzed. And as we got into the analysis of movie footage and metal, photographs, sounds of the craft, and then interviewing all the witnesses, we just decided that, okay, this is a definite, unidentified object case. And Billy had told us that he was having contact directly with Pleiadian beings. So at that point, we decided, okay, we're going to put the initial findings out in volume 1 and let people make their own decisions as to whether or not they feel this is valid. And we followed that with volume 2, and now the books are put together in both volumes in one big book. It's 10 inches by 10 inches square, 200 pages, has everything from the old books plus new information too.
And there's Billy Meier, and he's still alive today, right?
He is. He's 87. I just spoke with him on a Zoom call not too long ago, and we emailed back and forth, and he's doing pretty well.
Well,
He's happy and enjoying life.
and you spent some time there, and I heard it's
Yeah.
beautiful there in the mountains, isn't it? Is it?
It is in the mountains. It's in a little backwater town in Switzerland, off the main drag. Billy has a farm there. When we first met him, he had just moved into the farm,
Mhm.
and he had no running water.
Really? No well,
Yeah.
nothing?
They had a well, but they didn't have water in the house. So
Uh,
they'd go get a bucket of water and heat it on the stove, and that's how they washed their dishes. And
that's
yeah, so it's very
why
interesting.
that's why his beard was so curly, huh?
Yeah.
But
He's a farmer. I mean, he has an earthiness, a real solid ground to the earth that is quite interesting to be around because you can just feel it. He
right,
loves it. He loves working the earth, and he wanted to make this place a farm.
right.
So he basically had to come in with this rather dilapidated place and turn it into a working farm.
and he got hit with all kinds of naysayers and negative people,
He
and
did.
he stood up to that, I guess, and he
He did. He has a great attitude, Dave. His attitude is, it's all right if you disagree with me.
mhm,
It's all right even if you hate me.
right.
He just turns around and, as he says, he sends them love and he goes on about his life. He can't be concerned with their attitudes.
Mhm,
He has had attempts on his life, and that's awful. Some of the people over there are so dogmatic
yeah.
and so steeped in what their old beliefs are that they're not capable of even remotely opening up a little bit to something like this.
Mhm.
So he has had numerous attempts on his life. All have failed. He's been warned by the Pleiadians about all of them.
Now, I told you I'm about ready to publish a book. It's a sci-fi book, and
Mhm.
it's a Palladian woman and an
Mhm.
Earth man that get together, and it's a kind of a warlike drama love story, and
Uh,
publish it. Going to give it to the publisher next week. But it's it's strange how I come in contact with you, and you're talking about the Pleiades, and I'm publishing this book next week. So it's kind of a there's nothing a coincidence, right? It's a synchronicity. It's always
all synchronicity, and don't you love it?
right. And also you also have written other books. I mean, you have The Happy Move, and you
Yeah,
and Deborah Jacobs, who works with you, and
yeah.
she does some of the planning and public relations. And you have this I guess the Brit of an American, you're British living in America when, and you wrote that book with Yvette Durham, right? Or, no, is that,
No, that one's not mine.
oh,
The
that
last the last one I wrote is called Another Step Up the Mountain. And I wrote it with Deanette Wells, who is an adventure sports person.
okay.
And oh my gosh, it's an incredible book. It'll be out next month.
Well, it looks like you got a book on here that's it's got your.
It's not mine.
Oh, you won't collect the royalties, that's for sure.
No, no, but I have written 7 books, I think, in the last 2 years.
Okay. Uh, now this also it just says there's a listing of books, and it's on off of Amazon is where I got this information, and
Uh-huh.
it has fortifying the flock, and it has elders. It's your name on it, and
It's not
it's
me.
right above your UFO contact book. So I need to throw that stuff away. That's
Yeah, there you go.
it's listed on your book area, and it's got your name, elders, and
I'll get that taken care of. Thanks for the heads
yeah.
up.
But no, yeah, if you collect the royalties, don't say anything. I mean, but
Okay, I won't,
okay,
but I doubt if I will.
okay. Now this book description, it's 45 years after their original publication, the two photojournal volumes of the UFO Contact from the Pleiades are combined in one book for a modern audience with a new foreword written by Shirley MacLaine,
Mm.
written by Mexican ufologist Jamie Maussan. That's another big one. But they also on him too. There's a lot of negative about him.
They are, and it's so not fair. But they do the same with Shirley. I
Yeah,
mean, they call her a kook,
yeah.
and they always have. And she is so cool about that. It's amazing. She just holds her own. She knows her power, and she just says, "Okay, call me Cookie. It's all right. Doesn't hurt me. It's just a word."
I saw a short movie of her, Brit, and she was driving on the back roads, and she
Uh-huh.
took her hand off the steering wheel and just closed her eyes and steered the car or truck that she was driving in, and without an accident.
I got to tell you, that happened. It happened. Okay, I've got to go back.
Okay.
We took Shirley with us to Switzerland in 1981. What happened was she called our house. She had our number through a friend. She called and she spoke to my husband, Lee, who could be a little gruff at times.
Mhm.
And she says, I want to go visit this man in Switzerland. And Lee says, I don't care who you are. We're not running tours to Switzerland. And he hung up the phone. A couple hours later, she calls back. She says, wait, I've got to explain. I'm writing a book called Out on a Limb. And I think it's important for me to meet him. It's all about UFOs and things like that. So we relented and we took her over to Switzerland. She met Meier. She was there 5 days with a tape recorder going 24/7. I mean, this woman is so curious and she loves asking questions.
Mhm.
So she was constantly questioning Meier, and he was so gracious about it. But what happened was Billy decided we needed to take a night off and go bowling. So we got into a Jeep. Billy was driving. Now, mind you, he has one arm. He lost an arm in a bus accident. Turns the lights off in the Jeep. It's at night, and he takes off through the forest. No hands. He is letting them steer him. Them, the Pleiadians, steer. That actually happened. Lee and I were present. We were in the Jeep with Shirley and Billy.
Mhm. Now, wow, how do you think they did this? I mean, did they do remotely, or were they
I
invisible?
think they remotely did it
Uh-huh.
through Billy, through his energy. They connected with him and just did it that way. Because you couldn't see anything. And we're in the middle of a forest surrounded by trees, not on a road, not on a path.
Mhm.
And he was going in and out of trees. We had to go about 7 miles to this little place. And he got us there safely. We all got out shaking our heads saying, what did we just experience?
Is this where Shirley got the idea of doing this
Yeah,
herself?
that's why she incorporated it into the movie Out on a Limb,
Mhm.
because Out on a Limb's character, David, was a composite character of 3 contactees. Meier was one of those contactees.
Okay. Wow. That's so this thing with Shirley MacLaine goes way into it. And this photojournal presents the unique contact case of the Swiss farmer, Billy Meier, who claims to have met the Pleiadians hundreds of times, compiling many layers of evidence, including notes on their conversations, hundreds of photographs, movie footage, and all this information that you were privy to looking at this and
Yeah.
seeing it. And Britt, you felt it was for real stuff, right?
I do. I still do. And here's why. And looking back 45 years has given me a completely different perspective. In 1977, personal computers didn't really exist. There was one, it weighed about 75 pounds. It had a green screen. You had to know how to code. You had to write code in order to work on the thing. We didn't have cell phones that could take great footage, both stills and movie footage. We had movie footage of the craft. We had photographs. We had the sounds that the craft made, which were really unique. And we had metal samples. We went to laboratories like JPL,
Yeah.
Scripps Institute, Ames Research, IBM, all over the place with this material. No one could duplicate it. No one could say it is a UFO. They could say, I don't know what it is, but I can't do it. And I'm an expert in that field.
Mhm.
We even went so far as to have Wally Gentleman, who was a special effects expert. He worked with Stanley Kubrick on 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
he worked with Coppola on a lot of things. We had him make us a model of Billy's ship, and we ran it through the same programs that we ran Billy's photographs through. Instantly, you could see that the edges of the craft that Billy shot were very different from the model that Wally had made for us.
Mhm.
You could see the string that suspended it, but it was definitely a small little object. Billy's craft was almost 21 feet in diameter. And that showed when you triangulate size and distance, you know how big the object is.
So
Yeah.
he was actually doing the stringing things to prove his point, not exactly fake anything. Yeah.
No, we did it. We had the model built
Oh.
and we hung it. In fact, we've got a documentary coming out the end of this month called UFO Contact from the Pleiades, a documentary film.
Mhm.
But in it, you see us using this model, suspending it on a monofilament line, hanging it on a fishing pole, and then analyzing it. And you can see the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. You are quite an investigator. Been around there on this stuff. I'm really nice to meet you and talk to you.
Thank you.
And this Shirley MacLaine connection blows my mind also. I mean,
Yeah.
she's
We've drug her all over the world. Yeah.
yeah. I'd like to interview her sometime if she would. I doubt. I don't think she does interviews. Probably,
Not very often, but sometimes she does.
but they're probably big shows like Johnny Carson or whatever the Seth
She
Green.
actually enjoys the smaller shows.
Really?
I mean, she can do the big shows anytime she wants,
Yeah.
but she enjoys the little ones because she feels like she's connecting to the people.
Well, hopefully I'll get more numbers and she might be interested. I know Uri Geller too, and I've had him on my show before.
Uh-huh.
And he's waiting for me to get bigger numbers, so he'll jump on my show. So, and I communicate with him quite a bit, and
Good.
he's in Jerusalem, of course,
Yes.
got a museum there,
Yeah.
and he's been saying, I don't want to get into politics, but he's been talking some politics to me,
Uh,
and he sent me a couple of things. I said, Yuri, run for president. If people like you, there's signs holding up, we need Yuri. We need.
yeah.
He's a nice guy. Peace and love.
He is.
He's a great guy. Uh, and I write to him quite a bit, off and on, a couple of times a week. But I see here that Billy Myers talked to the Pleiadians. I saw a movie once, or a documentary, where there was a lady that was
Mhm.
in the room with him in his house, and she looked like a typical, woman in her 30s or 40s,
Mhm.
but she wouldn't turn around. She wouldn't show her face, but you could see the back of her head and hair, and she had a dress on, and she looked human to me. But they said that she was a Palladian lady. And was that true, or is that Brit?
I don't know about the footage that you saw. That I'm not sure about. I have never seen it. Billy's never presented it to me. He did give us the hard evidence. That he never gave us. I can say this. From his description, the Pleiadians look very much like us. They do have some differences. Their earlobes come right into their jaws.
Yeah.
They're often referred to as the Nordic types of
Yes.
beings. They have light skin, fair eyes, usually fair hair. They all look different. They don't look alike. They're not like the little grays that are cookie cutter exact.
Mhm.
But they do walk among us, but not for long periods of time. And the reason for that they told Billy, is that we have something called auric stench. And auric stench is our energy, our greed, our anger, our frustration, our hatred that we carry for whatever, and it affects them. And as Billy says, they turn around in their head if they're around it too much. So they can't be around humans for a long period of time.
Mhm.
They have a physical reaction to us. Like if you walk out on a street and you really pay attention to what you feel when you walk by someone, you can often have that same kind of reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're either drawn to people or we're repelled by people. And they, as a whole, are repelled by Earth humans. Yeah.
Right. I That's how I can pop up some AI pictures that I drew up for my book, and
Uh-huh.
love the Pleiadian princess, I call her, and I called her Trella.
Uh-huh.
That's the name I got of her, but I don't know if I can. I'll try to maybe bring this up, and then we'll see if the file is there. Uh, okay, I'll see what you think if I AI'd this properly. I'm looking for it now. Uh, my files are all so thick, and this takes forever, Britt, to get through these things.
I understand. I'm the same way. Hmm.
This is one of the
Oh,
I think
interesting.
yeah, this is the one that's the blonde that's in the suit, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's my it's my thought. I've never met uh, a Palladian, to tell you the truth, but I I just think that that's what they look like.
It's pretty
Actually,
close.
Yeah, I actually have a
Pretty close.
better picture of her, but there's so many files in there. I gotta
Yeah.
bore people by doing this. And you're gonna sit there, okay, what's Dave doing here? All in files. I need to clean my files up. That's what I need to do. But I can't throw away all my book manuscript. You know how that is.
Oh, yeah.
You have to
Yes.
back them up on a memory stick, and you want to make sure that you don't lose them, because it
Right.
goes on nowadays with these blackouts and everything. You could lose your files. So I keep all the files on there, but I also have the most important ones backed up. Let's get back to how you got involved with this UFO endeavor, Brit. It must have started
Oh,
young like everybody else, right?
well, it was interesting because actually I grew up in a house where they weren't called UFOs, they were just called things. My dad was a rocket engineer and worked on the early missile systems.
Okay.
So he would see these things, his engineer buddies, they'd come to the house and they'd talk about it and say, what was that thing? You
Hmm.
know, it was just hovering. It was just, we're getting our missiles up and then coming straight down,
Right.
but this just hovered. So it was a curiosity. So I heard about it. I wasn't really fascinated by it. Then in 1976, I believe it was, Wendell Stevens brought us some photographs and said, you got to take a look at these. Lee and I looked at them and said, they're too good to be true. It was the Meier case.
Wow.
The photographs are so clear and so beautiful. Your first reaction is, no way. Well, about a year later, we were in Switzerland. We had gone to Europe on some business, and we stopped by the farm. We thought we'd spend a day, figure out how Meier did it, you know, created this whole fraud.
Right.
We spent 5 days. We walked the farm. He gave us free rein to everything, answered every question openly, and came home with all this evidence to be analyzed. So at that point, it was like, okay, let's find out what we can learn from it. We started with the photographs. We went to U of A, Dr. Michael Malin. Jim Delatosa was really key in getting some of the things done there. And we continued. We went from laboratory to laboratory because every scientist had their own specialty. So
Hmm.
we had to find the specialties that would work with analyzing specific photographs. We were at USGS with Eric Eliason all the way through. Then we had to go through the movie footage. That was analyzed quite extensively in Japan. They could not find any cuts in that movie footage. And yet the craft would appear up here in the top of the screen and then blink right down here in the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Or the craft would be hovering over the highway
Yeah.
and there's cars going behind or underneath it. That's coming out in the documentary. So people will have a chance to see that.
Yeah.
And we,
I'll post that documentary in a narrative and let
oh,
people know.
terrific.
When's it going to come out? Do you know?
The end of this month,
End of this month? Okay, good.
May 30th. Yeah.
I'll
And then
make
we had
note.
metal samples. We took those to IBM, to Dr. Marcel Vogel. The metal samples were so unique because they were metal and crystal and metal. They were not a warmed, molten mass of metal where it's all mixed together. It was separate, it was pure, separated by crystal. We couldn't do that then. This is 1977. We did not have that technology.
Hmm.
We didn't have cold fusion then. So the scientists that were looking at this, there were 42 of them, said, we can't make this here. We have no way of manufacturing this metal on this planet now. Not only that, the metal had thulium in it. Thulium is a rare earth element. It's very costly to extract and it's very rare. How would Billy Meier know to put thulium into this
I never,
metal sample
yeah,
that's so unique?
yeah. I've
Yeah,
never heard of that metal. And
yeah.
I've talked to a lot of ufologists, but never heard of that metal. On your right side, there's a light that flickers. I don't, it's the flicker.
Oh,
I just, yeah,
that's interesting. I just see it. I don't know what it is though.
yeah, it's flickering onto your right side. And
I have a ghosty.
yeah, you have an invisible ET, a
I
Pleiadian.
have some great energy.
There you go. Yeah, probably do. And especially hanging out with Shirley MacLaine and rubbing shoulders with her, But no, yes, I can see, I guess the people in the
It's
audience can see it too when they see
interesting.
this. It's a light that flickers. I have weird things that happen on some of
Yeah.
the videos and we talk about UFOs and things, they know who I am. So do some of these secret people that's followed me around a couple of times. That's why
Oh,
I
yeah.
asked you about the Men in Black. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it's TI. You're a which are a targeted individual, and
Right.
you're an influencer, and you're on the air a lot, and you talk about certain things. You talk to NASA scientists or any scientist. They're interested in what you're talking about, what you're doing. So,
You know what you do?
what's that?
You share. You share. Okay. And we did this, and this is how we got into a lot of the laboratories. You
That,
guys,
that was a question I was going to ask you. How did you get through so many doors, Britt?
we thankfully had so many contacts. We had a company called Intercept, which is an electronic countermeasure company.
Mhm.
We keep Fortune 500s and financial institutions free of eavesdropping and wiretapping. So we had a lot of good contacts there. The equipment we used was state of the art, and it was actually designed by intelligence groups.
Oh,
So we had access to a lot of different resources there.
okay.
But we told them, feel free, use the information however you can in a positive way, but analyze this, please. They did. They wouldn't say, yeah, it's a UFO, and they wouldn't say, oh, yeah, we believe in contacts, but they got all the information we got, and we were more than willing to share. Nothing to hide. I
Mhm.
think the more we bring this out publicly, the more the government will be relaxed in bringing it out publicly, and the more people can respond and make their own judgments and their own decisions.
I know you got a list of things, talking points, and questions, but I'm just going to jump around with them. But I want to ask you about. You mentioned the government, and you've been
Yeah.
involved in technology.
Yes.
What do you think about disclosure? I'll tell you what I think. The reason why the Pentagon stopped these Senate hearings, especially in Florida, air base there, they stopped them because they were ordered from high above to stop. This is all we want to give them out. We just want to give out a few Tic Tac videos and that's it.
Spoon feed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's the higher ups, the ones who run the world. It's not our military, not our government. It's kind of like, should I say it, the cabal?
Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
This is for entertainment purposes only. I have to say that on some of these platforms, but
Yeah.
because we don't have exact proof of it, but
Right.
we can have an opinion. And I think it's the leaders of the world, not the political leaders, but the banks and the
Yeah.
nobles and the elites, in which have been running the world ever since we've been human beings. I
Hmm.
think they're the ones who said, no, let's don't release any more of this because we don't want them to know the technology we've been getting from the ETs. They are the
That could
ones getting,
be.
yeah, and they don't want us to know that they're getting that and they're using that technology against us. What's your
That
thoughts?
could be. There's another thing there too. When you look at specifically the United States, we've got to do some catching up here.
Mhm.
We're kind of behind the rest of the world.
Right.
There are too many other countries out there releasing information, being much more open about this. But we still have this, and I do not understand why. We have this concept that the public is stupid, and they aren't. The
Mhm.
public is much more intelligent than they're given credit for. So whether it's coming through political, whether it's coming from the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever anybody wants to call them, a higher plane of government over this planet,
Mhm.
I think they've got to take the break off at some point. The rug is so full right now. They've been sweeping it under the rug for so long, people are tripping over it. We've got to get the information out there. We have to put it out there in a way that it doesn't promote panic and fear, because it would upset the economy, it would tank the stock market, and you would have a lot of people not ready for it.
The
But
really
if we approach it from a standpoint of being more receptive to those that aren't ready for it, and that's okay, and feed those that really want the information, I think we'd be in better shape.
Now, let's go take you back to the 70s when you started investigating with Billy Meier. Did the government throw some guidelines at you, or did they throw some lines in the sand at you, Britt?
Not at all. We had people tell us they would, because we had a publishing company and we self-published through that. We had people say they're going to blow up your printing press. They're going to bomb your house. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And we had just the opposite. We had a lot of good cooperation. But we wanted to learn from this, and we wanted other people to be able to learn from it too. And we really didn't care what position they held, whether it was a dentist, a dog catcher, or a political official. We wanted them to have the information too.
Right. What, I guess, you're saying something here in your notes. What was the most important aspects for you? And I think I'm starting to feel it, is get the word out and let people be enlightened. And that's what's important to you. Is that right, Britt?
It really is.
And your
It's,
husband worked with you, right? He was working with you?
yeah, while he was alive, we were together 44 years, 24/7. We worked together, we played together. Yeah, we had a great relationship.
Yeah. Well, great. And he was involved in the UFOs too. Did he?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was in Switzerland. He went with us to Mexico. I mean, he was a big impetus behind the Meier case because he felt that this was something that could help everybody. Just the knowledge that we aren't alone in the universe back in the 70s was a huge stretch of the imagination. And so he really wanted to promote that to people, realize we're not alone, because we're sending, at that time, we were still just barely getting the space shuttle off. We had been to the moon, but Mars and places further distant, those were just kind of fantasies. We were hopeful. But he knew someday we would be in a position where we are now, where we're looking at Mars and setting up bases there, where we're looking at future places in the universe. And we've got to be aware that there are other beings out there.
Yeah. Do you now? Here's something. It's a controversial. It's for entertainment purposes. I hear that we already have a secret space group that's already out there on the moon and Mars and everything.
I've heard that too.
And
Yeah.
then I heard the moon landings were fake. I'm leaning towards that they weren't fake, but I also lean towards their last one or two missions. They met ETs up there, and the ETs asked them not to come back. Is that a possibility?
That's that or extinct thing again. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
I wouldn't blame them if they said, please don't come back.
Don't bring
I've heard some of those stories. Yeah. I don't know any of that for fact or anything else, but I have heard the stories as well. I do know Edgar Mitchell was a good friend. He was a love, and he had some amazing experiences while he was out in space. And I've had an opportunity to speak with Gordon Cooper and so many of the astronauts before they passed, and they all felt a connection to something bigger.
Yeah.
Something massive. And that was really curious for them, made them want to learn more, but at the same time, it made them want to cherish what we have here and respect it more and what you have inside your heart.
Right. Well, Brit Eklund, I feel like I got a diamond and a jewel here with an interview with you. You have some contacts. You've been doing this, I guess, with Billy Meier and other. Have you taken on other cases in the last 45 years that you've been doing? Have you taken on?
Yeah, we have. We met with several abductees, which was really good. A lot of the abductees, after we talked to them, realized that they sort of precipitated the contact and changed the concept of abduction into contact, because they got out of their car, they walked to the ship, they went, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And bing, they're up on the ship. So things like that, we've had a lot of opportunity to speak with people that came in very fearful, left feeling much better. I always feel good when that happens. I realize there are contact cases that are very different from abduction cases, and there's different types of abduction cases, and some of them are horrific.
Right.
I do have knowledge about implants. We looked into that extensively. Roger was quite a doctor, and he really dug into
Roger Lear, yeah.
He really dug into all of that and had the documentation to get behind it. And then we got involved with Mexico in 1991. And oh my gosh, the stuff going on in Latin America that we never hear about up here.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. We've had pilots down there, military pilots down there, law enforcement people, all having experiences, all seeing craft. It makes front page news in Mexico and even in places like Ecuador. We never hear a word up here. So sad.
Okay,
We just have this bubble.
you knew this Mossman, right? Is that how you say his name, Mossman?
Malsan,
Mossman.
Jaime Malsan.
Yeah.
He's a very dear friend. Yes.
Do you believe that these tiny critters that they found, they call them ETs, are those verified? Are those real, Brit?
The mummies, the DNA is showing that they are not human.
Yeah.
They have some traits of human DNA, but not all of it. So yeah, that is something that when he's like a dog with a bone. When Jaime gets into an investigation, he does not turn loose.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many trips he's made to Peru, but he goes in, he looks, he gets the evidence, and then he takes it to laboratories and digs and digs and digs until he gets a final answer. When he brought the little mummies into Congress in Mexico, what he is doing is trying to get Congress in Mexico to make it so Mexico is the first country that says, yes, extraterrestrials exist, because they are having so many sightings. And like I said, it's on the 6 o'clock news. It's front page on the newspapers. It's normal down there.
Right.
Here, no, it wouldn't happen. But
Well,
there, they have a different mindset. They're easygoing. They get out and have parties and wait for UFOs to show up. It's remarkable. And
right.
when I talk to mayors of different places, like Atlisco, a town of 100,000 people, and I ask the mayor, are you concerned with all this UFO activity? And he says, why should I be concerned? If they were going to harm us, they would have already done it.
Yeah.
No, we're going to enjoy them. They're friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just beautiful.
That's the ET's homeland down there. You talk about the Mayans, the Incas, and
Yes.
Central America. And I think that's why they come back there and look around, because that's what they're used to thousands of years ago, probably. What about this village in Guatemala that had this? They were shooting at these ETs, these tall grays.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of the village, but it's in Guatemala or somewhere like.
Yeah, it's down in that triangle area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear anything about that? Have you investigated that, Britt?
I have not investigated. I have heard a lot of stories about it. It to me, they would have been better off, instead of fighting it,
No.
sitting down and talking with them.
Right.
But instead, it was fear going back and forth between the two, because it was something they didn't recognize. It was the type of being that, if it looked like us, we would be more receptive. But it wasn't, and it affected a lot of people.
Yeah, they were the tall grays, and
Yeah.
they didn't look like us. And I
No.
heard they were trying to kidnap kids or whatever, and that's why they got the guns out and started shooting.
Well, what I heard was they didn't know for sure what they were going to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So they just thought, shoot at them anyway, because we don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Tucker Carlson, he's got a big platform now, and
Yeah.
he talks about ETs, aliens quite a bit, and he's pretty much forthright. So is Elon Musk.
Yes.
He talks about ETs being for real, and he says, yeah, they could be down here with us already. Well, who knows? I think Elon Musk kind of an ET type anyway.
Yeah, he might be one of those that's receiving some of that gifted energy from them. Yeah.
Yeah. His ex-wife said he was strange in that way. They asked her, said, do you think he was an ET hybrid? She goes, maybe so. He was strange, but I like the guy. He's a billionaire. He's a nice billionaire. He's not like Gates or the rest of them who are wanting to do things against the humanity.
The people. Yeah.
Elon Musk talks about restoring the First Amendment and all this other stuff, and he's a free guy with people, and he's a straight up guy. That's why I like him. Now, through all your years, you met a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know Shirley MacLaine impressed you. is there anybody else that maybe is a top star or somebody big name that we know that you ran into that talked about ETs and saw one or they believe in them, Britt?
Goldie Hawn. She was very much into extraterrestrial life and UFOs and things like that back in the day. Most of the time, they're not too open about it, but a lot of people. Do you remember Marty Feldman?
Yes.
Yeah, he was very much into it.
Bill Murray.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm trying to think. The Jackie Gleason, he wrote us a 5-page letter after he bought his first book back in the 70s. Yeah, he was really into it.
You got a letter from him stating that he saw.
He totally supported everything and he knew they were real. And he said at some point he hoped we could meet so he could tell us his story, but we never did meet.
Well,
and then Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, he wrote us a letter stating that this is very true after he purchased a book. And he said, this is real. And that was back in the late 70s. Yeah. So a lot of different people have had experiences, were uncomfortable talking about them, especially at that point in time, and just wanted to say, give it a chance. Think about it, be open to it, let it be creative in your mind for a while. You might come up with an idea that they are real.
Yeah. Well, Uri Geller told me a story. He met Werner von Braun in New Mexico. And Werner von Braun saw him on TV and was interested in his magic or what he was doing. And he brought him in, he had his brother with him. And I've told this story before, but I don't know if you know Uri, but he told the story on the air, and he said that von Braun looked at him and he says, here's a coin. I want you to bend it in your hands right in front of me. So he did. He put it in front of him and he said, okay, here it is. And he bent it. He says, well, now I'm going to take you to another step. And he opened his safe. He got out some piece of metal that looked like aluminum foil. He said, now close your eyes and feel this. And Uri felt it and he said, it's not from here. And he says, you're right. He said, it come off of a UFO. And he said, I want to show you one more thing, just like Jackie Gleason and President Nixon, that deal that they went to the Air Force Base in Florida and they saw these ET bodies in a frozen, some frozen cellar or something. And he took him to a bunker that was guarded by a bunch of Marines. He couldn't take his brother with him. He said, you've got to leave your brother here. I'll take you by yourself and go in. And he said, put on a jacket. So they put on a big coat. He said, what's this for? And he said, you'll see. They walked into this room that's really frozen and they had bodies and he couldn't say on the air. He couldn't say what they were. He said, just let your mind read the rest. And because he worked with the government. So he was kind of bound by certain NDAs. So he couldn't say, he said, Dave, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm sending it to you. He was psychic. I said, okay, you saw aliens. But no, that story about Jackie Gleason, didn't his widow write a book about that?
I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I'll find out about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she wrote it in the book about Jackie Gleason's life and about the good friendship he had with President Nixon. He's the one who took him to that Air Force base and showed him those ET bodies. And
he knew it was real. He was very adamant about that.
So his wife in the book, I haven't read the book or anything, so I might be speaking out of school here, but she said that he come home and he was very quiet. He didn't know what to say. And he told her the next morning or the next day, he says, I can't believe what I saw. He told her that and she said, what'd you see? And it took him a while to tell her. I guess he was so shocked, but yeah, that was interesting. And that's why I was saying about Spielberg and all these other people, they know things because, they get close to people who know things like Elvis Presley. I think he knew a few things. Yeah. And I'm really interested in all the people that you knew and talked to. It's amazing. And that light's still flickering on you. So you got energy.
I guess.
Energy coming out. it could be Shirley MacLaine sitting there watching. But no,
I
but
have been fortunate to know a lot of really wonderful, open-minded people.
yeah,
Absolutely.
right. Now I want to take you back to yourself. Now, have you seen a UFO, Brit, or your husband? Have either one of you seen a UFO?
Both of us many times, yes. We saw many in Mexico. I mean, it is just practically a nightly thing down there. And all you got to do is look up. It's there. And they're doing loop-to-loops around each other and right angle turns and popping off and popping in, and really something. But I think the most startling thing I've ever seen, I was with my dad, who worked with von Braun, and my mom, and we were going to California. We were driving. We were on I-40, right past Flagstaff, right next to the San Francisco Peaks. It was about midnight, full moon, snow, January night.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom and I were sitting on the passenger side, and we're watching these little green and red orbs just sort of bouncing around all over the place.
Yeah.
And we looked up a little further, and here is this enormous craft. And we started screaming at Dad to pull over. Finally, he did. And he said, "What are you looking at?" And he got out and he looks up and he says, "Where the hell would we land that son of a bitch?" You know, I mean, it was just out there.
Well, so
Because it was so big. And then he said, "It's silent. What's its propulsion?"
yeah.
And it was massive. And we stood there for the longest time watching. And truckers were pulling up behind us. And one guy got out with his camera and he was taking pictures of it and looking up at it. Dad went back to talk to him. They exchanged numbers. He did talk to my dad later, but all of the film that he took with his 35 millimeter camera, it was like the back of the camera had been opened and all the film was exposed.
Oh,
So he didn't get a shot at all.
they did
But
that with energy. Yeah.
yeah, that was just a remarkable sighting.
Was that a big triangle craft?
No, the front of it was shaped kind of like a rounded arrow point,
Mhm.
arrowhead, and then this long tubular area. And the little green and red orbs went right up inside it.
I guess those were like drones, whatever.
Yeah, something like that. But there was no sense of fear or anything like that. It was just really a wonderful experience.
Mhm. Do you know?
Standing on the side of the road frozen.
Do you know a Dr. Robert Shipe?
No, I don't think I do.
He's
Don't
he's
recognize the name.
he's in San Francisco. He lives on the beach side, and
Uh-huh.
he's an inventor, and he was actually a Hollywood pharmacist. Maybe Shirley MacLaine might know him. But he's been taking some interesting videos. I had him on the show 2 weeks ago, and him and I are buddies, and we talk every once in a while. And he's retired. He had a couple
Uh-huh.
of conventions, so he just retired. But now he's working mostly filming what he calls little dragons, and they're objects
Hmm.
about 2 inches long. They look like a big copper bullet, like.
Uh-huh.
And they actually they when they see something that's about 150 feet up, it's a craft, any kind of a craft, even if you're paragliding or whatever, it'll go
Yeah.
up and check you out real quick. It goes right by you like a
Wow.
bullet. It goes 1,200 miles an hour, and he's got videos on YouTube, and it's called Dragons, Dr. Robert Shipe, and
I'll check it out.
yeah,
Thanks for the heads up. That's great.
yeah, and I've got if you watch some of my shows, I'm not sure if you're on my Facebook or something, but I
Mhm.
just did a show with him about 2 weeks ago, and we've got some interesting videos. And he's got videos of actual these UFOs dropping out of a portal, and a U.S. Navy jet pilot filmed this, and
Uh-huh.
so he got that film, and but he's got some interesting stuff, and one of the things that, well, you didn't know John Lennon, did you, back in the day?
No, I didn't. No.
I didn't know him. Well, he was actually gifted by ETs. They visited him in his apartment in New York twice.
Mm-hmm.
Twice. Second time, they give him a gift,
Uh-huh.
and that gift is the same thing I'm talking about. I don't know if I want to come out and say it, but it's the same dragon type thing.
How fascinating.
Yeah. But he was scared to keep it. He didn't want to keep the
Oh,
object, So he turned it over to somebody else, and that's where I guess I that's where I have to end there telling that story, but I know who got it.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
but it's
Good.
uh,
Well, at least it's got a lineage, you
yeah,
can
yeah,
follow
it's
it.
that whatever they hand over, but uh because you know a lot of these people, Britt, that's why I'm bringing up some of these stories. I hate hogging the airspace, but I wanted to let you
No,
know, check in on Dr. Robert Chight. Maybe
I will.
give him a call,
Yeah.
and he's very anxious of getting this out. He actually showed our video that him and I made
Uh-huh.
on the show to the Air Force people, and he was kind of giving them a class on it, and
Very good.
they were interested in it. But it's the police are interested in those drones and our dragons, and so is
Mm-hmm.
military.
Mm-hmm.
Helicopters that track them all the time, but they're all over the world.
Oh,
People
that's interesting.
people are taking pictures of them and films, and you can go to any airport when a plane takes off.
Yeah.
You can take a picture, and one of these things will be darting real fast, and if you can catch it with a slow motion camera, you can
Wow.
catch one of these things. Yeah,
Why does he call them dragons?
because they actually spit out they look like they got little wings.
Uh-huh.
Actually, that's plasma energy, electrical energy that they use for
Mm-hmm.
propulsion, and that's what propels them that fast. And they actually will get their energy from a wire, a electrical wire, and they'll just go up to one. He's got films of one of them going up close to one and drawing some energy from that. And
Wow.
for the it's amazing that a small thing like that could be so intelligent and so
Okay. Well,
but they're and that's I think that's the way a lot of UFOs are propelled is by plasma energy.
yeah.
So kind of electromagnetic.
I think that's in Mexico. They're always seen near the volcanoes, Popocatépetl, Colima,
Mm.
especially when they're erupting. And we've seen these craft go into the volcano and come out of the volcano. So yeah, I think they're drawn to energy sources. There's a place in Arizona called Childs, Arizona, that the power company, Salt River Power, actually called our company Intercept and said, we need help because they were losing power from their lines down in this place called Childs. So we went down and we talked to the couple that were kind of on station watching what was going on with the power lines. And they told us all about and that was a Delta Wing ship that would come in at least once a week, hover over the lines would start shaking, the craft would take off, and poor Salt River Project was losing its power. Yeah, that was back in 81, 82. Continued for a number of years.
So actually your work got you involved in some of this stuff then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's great. I mean, that's how you got those doors open. I mean, uh,
yes.
that's really interesting. I just I'm at all at what you know and who you know, and yeah, it's
I've just been at it a very long time, Dave,
I
so
know.
it's okay.
So am I, but I didn't meet all these stellar people that you know. Uh, but you see Shirley MacLaine, tell her that Zero Dave said hi.
I will tell her.
I'm not no big star or anything. I was a musician and I felt like a star for a while. I had my 15 minutes of fame, but that's over with. Now,
That's okay. I've been sending her all these interviews I've been doing.
yeah,
So she has something to occupy her time when she's not studying her script.
and you'll after when I give you the link to this, you can show her that flashing that's going on to your right
Yeah,
side.
it's interesting. Every now and then I can
Yeah,
catch it out of the corner of my eye.
yeah.
Yeah,
I just saw it. Every time I mention
it's there.
it's kind of looks like a cat's tail going back and forth real fast. You don't have a
I
cat
have
in there, do you?
I have two little Pomeranian dogs, both of which are asleep on my feet right now. So
Well, no
yeah,
tails are wagging. Okay, so
no.
that's what it looks like real quick,
And
like a
there's nobody else here in the house
yeah.
but me and whatever the energy is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I every time I mention it, it pops up. There it goes again. I mentioned. So Shirley, stop that. But no, you have interviewed some people with abduction experiences, Britt.
Yes.
what were some of the most interesting cases? I know you don't mention names or anything like that,
Yeah,
but
especially with abduction cases,
yeah.
because they're still dealing with it on a very personal level. But we had one case, the mother was abducted by, and this was in Latin America, she was abducted by what she calls bombarderos, firemen. They
Oh,
had round helmets and big puffy round suits. She could not get pregnant. As she and her husband had tried, the doctor told her it was impossible. 9 months later, she had a baby.
wow.
And the child, the young woman, she's a young woman now, has the most angelic voice you could ever imagine. She sings opera. She's quite beautiful. She's a hybrid, definitely got that energy going back and forth between the two. And that was an abduction case that the mother still had to work that feeling of violation, even though she had this beautiful daughter, out of her system. So we helped her work through that. We had a young man drive from Florida one time, all night, 2 days into Arizona to see us. And every time he laid down, these beings would appear in his room. And he just felt like he was being overwhelmed with their energy. He couldn't handle it. And we talked to him for several days. And finally, he got to a point where he felt like he could say, no, this is my body, my being. I'm okay being in charge of me, and I want you to leave. And it worked for him.
Mhm.
Sometimes that does work, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and also bringing up God like I did one time. I said
Yeah.
it, "Oh God, help me," twice,
Mm-hmm.
and it stopped. The electrocution of my body stopped. But there are different forms of abductions. I guess that
Yes.
there's a bedside abduction, and
Yeah.
which they do a lot with men.
Uh-huh.
Women, it's more technical. They'll probably
Yeah.
pick them up in the ship and take out the eggs or whatever. But with
Right.
with men, it's a bedside, and then with women and maybe even some guys. I've been on ships. I've had these regressed dreams, lucid. I mean, very
Mm-hmm.
lucid dreams. And I've been on board ship, but just to visit, just to look around the ship. They showed me around, but
Yeah.
I saw a tall lady about 7 feet tall. She was pale and she'd had no hair. She was bald headed. She had earrings on and a two-piece on. She was very tall, and she wasn't ugly, so she didn't scare me. But
Uh-huh.
it was just unique, and it's kind of like where I got the idea of Pleiadian, also
Uh-huh.
in my book, and with the Pleiadians that you researched with Billy Meier. But there's a third kind, and I don't know if you've ever heard of them. I'm going to ask you your impression of this. Like you wake up about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're freezing. You're shaking the whole bed. It's like me. I was shaking the whole bed and I was freezing. And the wife didn't wake up. She could hear a
Mhm.
cell phone drop on a carpet, and then she'd say, "What was that?" But she did not wake up with the whole bed
Yeah.
shaking. And I'm not a little guy, so I shake a lot. So I I, I was shaking the bed, and I got up. I woke up, and I felt like I was dead. My body was frozen, and
Oh,
I got
interesting.
up, went to the bathroom, come back, covered up, and I just so exhausted, I just passed out. It was August 11th when the first one happened. I told the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and the doctor said, "Well, there's nothing with your blood problem that would cause that." She was an excellent doctor, one of the best I ever had, and she said, "I don't see what could cause that." And she said maybe it just happened at one time, and I said, "No, it happened 6 years in a row on the same day, August 11th through the 13th."
Wow.
Yeah, and I've had people tell me, well, actually, they were taking your spirit, your essence, your consciousness, and taking it somewhere else in another plane or another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they left your body there with enough energy just to keep going. But they took
Mm-hmm.
else with them for a short visit, in which, I don't know how short that was. I never did have a recall or regress dreams on those incidents. So have you
Yeah.
ever heard of that? Since you investigated abduction, you ever heard of that type of a
That I have not heard of, and happening on the same date for years
no.
in a row, that's fascinating. The coldness, yes, that I've heard about, because it's a cold in the core. in your internal
Right.
body. It's
Mm,
not an external feeling. That I hear about quite a bit with abductees.
yeah.
That, and then it takes a while for you to heat back up and get back to a room temperature feeling.
Yeah. I didn't know because I passed out. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that is interesting. The timing of it every August 11th,
Through the
and that it would be cold when that's summer. I mean, all of that kind of plays in kind of in an interesting level there.
it's
Do
an
you have any recall of what was happening?
not of
None?
not I've had recall of other abductions, but not of these cold what I call cold abductions. Never had them, but the 6 years in a row, actually seven. I had a slight freezing episode here about a couple of months ago, and I was
Uh-huh.
really cold, and it was actually 75 in the room, and I had blankets on. So I thought, no, it's not, it's not me being cold. There's
Yeah.
something else there, but maybe it was over with, and I didn't know it at that
Uh-huh.
time. So, but every year, yeah, and I've had that happen. I thought maybe I'd shine a little light on that. That it's a third type of abduction, I call it.
Yeah, that is unique. That is really unique. The timing aspect is something else.
Yeah, that's what the doctor. Her eyes got real big. She looked at her assistant, and she goes, David, I don't know what to tell you. That
Yeah,
was it.
really.
That was it. She couldn't say no more. She because I disproved the coldness of the room and all this other stuff. Because
So what are you going to do this August 11th?
I don't know. It's interesting. Every August
Yeah.
I wait for that. It happened actually in 1 January. I don't know what
Uh-huh.
happened because they must have missed the date, but it happened in January.
Calendar got turned over. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't get thrown in the freezer for a while. But no, I just wanted to ask you that is I wanted to talk to you more about we were talking about the movie stars or the people that you knew that had experiences. Uh you had these abduction cases and the one that you told us about. Are there any other abduction cases that do you work with MUFON and other organizations outside of the Hollywood?
No,
Or,
strictly independent.
okay.
Really, as an investigator, strictly independent. Yeah.
All right. Your energy's flashing, so you're I can tell. It's weird. I don't know where that light's coming from. It, it's actually going on to the black part of
Yeah,
the
I
screen.
just saw it there. It's getting
Yeah.
bigger and I don't know why.
Can you see it in the room?
No, I can see it out of the corner of my eye on screen, but I'm not seeing it in the room at all.
Wow.
There's nothing in the room to flash. I
Well,
mean,
when you get this link, you'll be able to watch it and you'll see it.
oh yeah, find out what we're talking about and
Yeah,
see where it's keying in.
yeah, and show it to Shirley. She might know what it is. She said, "That's me."
Yeah.
Uh, now, your personal thoughts about extraterrestrial life visiting Earth. What do you
Yeah.
think, with all the experience you've had these 45 years, Britt? What do you think they're doing?
I think they've been here forever. I think they probably were the original beings on this planet. They seeded this planet. I think we all have a heritage out there in the stars. I think now they're watching us
Mhm.
because we're at a crossroads with our technology and our spirituality. We haven't let the spiritual side, the good side of us, I will call it that rather than spiritual, because I'm not talking religion, the side that knows right from wrong,
Yes.
the good side that wants to care for each other. We haven't let that move forward to the degree that we've let our technology move forward. So right now, our technology is outstripping that. And I think they're watching to see what we're going to do with that. Are we going to bring it back into balance? We exist in a three-dimensional world. We need to have all aspects of that, but
Mhm.
it has to be balanced. And we're in our heads too much. We're in our electronics too much. We're not in our heart enough. So we're not feeling connected with creation. We're not feeling connected with each other. And I think that worries them,
Mhm.
that we might be in a position where we could destroy this planet. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about green energy and all of that. I'm talking about warring factions destroying this planet because we haven't learned how to get along. And if we can't get along with each other here, how on earth are we going to get along with others out there?
Mhm. I
I
know
think they're really watching.
Yeah, I think it's actually the sightings have increased. I don't know if
Yes,
the camera access and the cell phone access has increased these sightings, but a lot of people.
absolutely.
And do you think there's an increase, and or do you think there's a reason for this increase, Britt?
Yeah, I do. I think they're trying to, since the world governments, powers that be, are not informing us. I think one of the reasons the sightings are becoming more and more common is because they're trying to let us know they're here
Mhm.
and wake us up a little bit. They don't want to wake us up by slapping us in the face or throwing cold water on us, but they want to wake us up so we start to think.
Mhm.
We're not a thinking society anymore. We are a group of sheep. We follow what everybody says and we just do our thing.
Right.
It's not what we're supposed to do.
Mhm.
We have these big, beautiful, wonderful open hearts and open minds if we allow it to be there.
Mhm.
And I think that they're sort of flying around, letting people take pictures, letting governments release bits and pieces so that we can realize they are here. We're not alone. That was one of the biggest messages Samyasa had for Billy Meier.
Right.
You're not the only thinking beings in the universe.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you another question too, since you have this abduction investigation experience. People say, and I said it myself, why me? Why do they come to me and why do they come to other people? What is the reason, Britt? Do you know? Have you found out?
Well, sometimes, and I don't know this for sure, but I really do believe this, that if we were seated by these other off-world organizations out there, I think they recognize that energy within us and they feel like we're part of them.
Mhm.
We're little brothers or little sisters. So I think that happens. I think it happens quite often in contacts, a little bit in abductions. I also feel like they see what we do to each other, what we do to animal life here, plant life. And when we're curious about something, we go dissect it. They do the same thing. They see us do it. They assume that we know what's right and that it's not harmful. I think that plays into it a little bit. And I think there's good and bad out there. There's the intent of good and the intent of bad. And that's something just like we have here. And you have to learn to be discerning about it.
Right. I I think that I keep asking that question, why? And actually, I heard at one time they stop at a certain age, but I'm old and they still mess with me sometimes. The
Listen,
paranormal stuff.
there was an Indian gentleman, indigenous person that we met in Ecuador. He was 97 years old and he was still being abducted. So I
Okay.
don't think they stop at a certain age.
Okay.
And he enjoyed it. He enjoyed the conversation, although brief. And he didn't, excuse me, he didn't speak Spanish. He spoke Quechua. They spoke Quechua with him.
Yeah. And what did was there anything interesting that he learned, Britt, from any of these contacts?
Just that his culture, which is basically still living in wooden huts, the Shora back there, was so different than theirs. He was fascinated by all this stuff, their ship, their technology, their suits, their clothes. It was so different from anything he knew.
Mhm.
And he was not even a man that would go into town. He was a very old elder of the Shora tribe, and he just enjoyed the discussion. But he used the term because he didn't know the term contact. He used the term abduction, that he would be abducted.
Wow.
And yet to him, it was a great thing.
Hmm. I envy all the trips and things that you've done and the
Yeah,
investigations, and that's must be really great. I I think they mess with our DNA, and they have for
sometimes.
years. You had a chance now. I'll talk to you about this elderly chief or whatever. He
Mm-hmm.
talked to them. Now Billy Meyer and also Pleiadians,
Mm-hmm.
What and did the Pleiadians talk English? I want to go back on the Pleiadians because you know a lot about that, the Brit.
This is important because this is going back to 1975. Simyasa, the Pleiadian contact, the primary Pleiadian contact, would talk to Billy in Swiss German because she said they could learn languages quickly. But if they had a problem, she had a translator. And she would take out the translator and he would say the word and then she would understand and they could continue the conversation. We didn't have that then, but we have it now. We have these translator apps you can put right on your phone, and I can speak to you in Japanese if I want to.
Yeah, right,
She had it in 1975.
right. But they're speaking ET languages in which we probably don't know anything much
They
about.
were speaking Earth languages. They can learn every Earth language. And she was speaking to him in Swiss German.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the one I met, she spoke 20 languages and she spoke English, but she couldn't read English printing.
that's interesting. Yeah, you
That
were
was,
telling me about that. That is very interesting.
and the Palladians, I guess, they would be nice to run into because they kind of look like us. It's different than a reptilian. Now, have you
So
heard of anybody having a reptilian experience, Britt?
I only know one individual that we talked to that had a reptilian experience, and it scared the pants off of him.
Mhm.
He was, and this was a ex-Marine, and it just frightened him to pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw one in a holographic form in which I heard that they sometimes show up like that because they know we're fearful of them because of their appearance. I
right.
I woke up one morning about 5:30 and I was going to the bathroom. When I got up, I looked towards my closet area. The sun was shining in the window about 5:36, and I looked over and towards my closet area. There's a figure about 5'6", 5'7", and it looked like a cobra in the face. I was
Oh, yeah.
scared to death. I
Yeah,
jumped out
I
of the
would be
bed.
too.
I jumped out of bed and I looked at it, and it didn't seem like it was solid, but it
Yeah.
was solid enough to scare me and know that it was there. And I was wide awake. And when I saw this,
Uh-huh.
and I looked at it, and I said, "Oh my God!" And I went in the bathroom and I looked around the door, and it was gone. It was only there about 7 or 8 seconds, and I heard
Wow.
it tell me that they sometimes do that, show up in holographic form. But I was so scared, I started looking under the bed for a snake.
And I don't blame you. I would have too.
That
Yeah,
scared me. Yeah.
that's something I would not enjoy.
Yeah. So do you think that since I heard that they are causing some of the negative energy here on Earth, the
Yeah.
reptilians, and they're in control underground. Have you ever heard of that from all the indications you got? Are there aliens living underground?
I have read stories about that. I have never investigated it, so I don't know for sure. I have been in several places, not just Dulce, that have the underground hum. Um, Something's underground. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I have heard a lot of stories about that.
Well, you mentioned the hums. That the
Not just reptilian, though.
yeah.
I've heard about grays. In South America, they have um, it's from Zeta 1 and Zeta 2, Zeta Reticulum. And they're like little grays, but they live underground quite often. And people report them when they go into caves and do a lot of spelunking down there. They run into these little beings that are living there. So yeah, I hear a lot of underground things.
It's like the Hopi Indians in the West. They talk about
All came up from underground. Yes.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like little grays. They would call them ant people probably. They had names for
It's
them.
interesting though, because the Hopi have a special reverence for the Pleiades and for Arcturus. They White Bear Fredericks took us up to Hopi Rock, which is where it talks about the progression of life and shows UFOs.
Right.
And he told us the story about how important the Pleiadian star cluster is to them, how important Arcturus is to them, the blue Kachina, what the meanings are for the people there,
Mhm.
and that they don't have a lot of comfort with grays. They don't like the little gray beings at all. They like the ones that, as they said, have hearts and are not communal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so the Pleiadians, you think, played a big role in our existence? Britt, do you think they're
I think many civilizations did. The Pleiadians are one of them.
Mm,
I think the Arcturians, Aldebarans, Sirius 1, Sirius 2, Ambi, Betelgeuse, obviously. A lot of different cultures have visited here in the past and helped seed this planet. Yeah. And when you start getting into the history of all of the ancient cultures,
mhm,
they all talk about space brothers.
right.
All of the mythology and the legends that are carried on, oral legends throughout the cultures, talk about how the space brothers came to help them, came to show them how to be better farmers, came to show them how to do weaving better or make a great observatory or something like that. So when you get into the history of that, you really find a lot of good information.
Mm. What have you learned overall these 45 years, Britt, that you can tell us and sum it up? I guess I'm throwing a big bag at you here on this one, but what can you wrap up for us? You know, we're coming. I want you to also explain your book a little bit, and also the documentary that's coming out. I want you to explain
Okay.
before we leave. But I want to get your final thoughts on how you sum up all your investigations in 45 years and working with some really fine people and people in elevated positions. Britt, could you just sum it up I guess in a summary?
Be honest, be as truthful with yourself and with others as you can. Don't be afraid because you have a great degree of control, even though you may not feel like it sometimes. And I've learned that everybody has their own perspective of what things are, and you have to respect that. Those people haven't walked in my shoes, I haven't walked in theirs. I have to respect what they say, what they believe is their truth, just as I would hope they would respect me for mine. Other than that, it's just constant learning. I learn something new every day, but that's the criteria that I try to wrap around everything that I do.
Mhm. And you still communicate with Billy Meier.
I do. I do. We were back and forth today. Yeah, he just got copies of the book. He's very happy with it.
Now, does he say he still has
Yes, he does. He is
experiences?
still having contacts with Pleiadians, and he's having communication with them. And it's not just telepathic; they are meeting face to face. So
Okay.
yeah, it still goes on.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about your book. I know this is a second edition. You have two editions, right?
No, this is volume 1 and volume 2
Oh,
together.
together. Okay.
We put both books together. It's basically a coffee table book. It's 10 inches by 10 inches, 200 pages. Um, Foreword by Shirley, preface by Jaime Maussan. I've written quite a bit in it, but it's the original 2 volumes of Contact from the Pleiades, volume 1 and 2, put together and re-released to honor 45 years of a remarkable case that is still as relevant today as it was 45 years ago.
And the documentary that's coming out soon, Britt, could you tell us a little bit about that?
The documentary, basically, we, the investigators, take you to Switzerland and we go through the process of getting the evidence, let you meet Meier, go to the contact sites, see the photographs, the movie footage, the metal samples, everything as it was analyzed, have discussions with Meier, hear what the Pleiadians had as messages for the people of Earth, all wrapped into about an hour and a half documentary filmed in 1982.
Um,
So we took you there with us while we were doing the investigation.
but you,
It's not a talking heads.
so
No, it's live action.
uh, that lady that I saw in a video,
Mhm.
if I'm not sure, I think who's the gentleman we talk about, Michael Horn. I think
Uh-huh.
I had shown that video of the
Uh,
lady that was standing there, but she wouldn't show her face because she was a Palladian. and she was in Billy Meier's house dressed like a, like a typical woman would, a human woman.
Mhm.
And so I'm not sure how true that is. That's why,
I'm
if
not either. I don't know. I'll ask Billy. He'll
yeah,
tell me.
yeah, if you don't know anything about it, then it must not be true. It must be something made up. But where's this
Oh, there's many, many, many things, Dave, that I don't know.
but you have, I mean, you have a lot of interesting contacts, a gold mine of contacts, I must say. But on this whole issue of the documentary, where can people see it when it does come out at the end of this month?
At the end of the month, it will be available on DVD, and then shortly after that, it will be available streaming. I'm just not sure what services yet.
Okay. All right, streaming services. That's too techy for me. So I got some streaming services and I have a hard time with it sometimes.
I'm still stuck with good old-fashioned DVDs. I like to stick it in the thing and
Oh,
then watch.
me too. I guess it's showing our maturity.
That's a good way to put it. Thank you for
Oh,
that age.
I didn't want to say the other word. Because I defy that.
Mhm.
Because I keep working out, I keep writing, and I keep doing these shows, and I meet great people like you. I mean, really,
Oh, thank
it's
you.
just so nice running into different people and having a chance to chat with them.
Oh,
I know a lot of people would envy my position being able to talk to somebody like you, and me too. I mean, I'm just,
it's great having hosts that have open minds.
yeah. Well,
Every now and then you get a show and there's just this closed off person does not want to go explore, have fun,
right,
play,
yeah,
and it's too much fun. I mean, speculation sparks creativity, curiosity sparks creativity. We all need that.
right. That's why I told you at the beginning of the show I'm an experiencer, so I'm with you. And I said
Right.
I am with you all the way on this one. So we're up to an hour and a half. Can you believe it goes that fast? And
Did go fast.
the energy's still, I think, flickering. Uh, but it's unusual that some things happen like that in these when we talk about certain things. I've actually was talking to somebody and books flew off their shelves
Uh,
right there in the room while we was recording, and I was talking to him, and I thought, oh my goodness, so there's something going on, and I know that they instantaneously. I talked to this one lady from Australia, and Elsa, and she talked about that things can happen instantaneously, that they know where you're at and what you're doing, and they show up right when you're thinking about it or right when you're calling them or whatever. So I don't know if you've ever had that experience. Have you?
all the time, all
You
the time.
can you call up
Yeah.
a UFO?
Magic energy. It's just wonderful. When you think of, because to me, I hold such a special place for Billy and the Pleiadians in my heart with all the work we did with them and everything. And you can be driving down the road and you'll think something, oh, the Pleiadians, I wonder what they would think about this. You'll get a shooting star going across the sky. Something like that. That synchronicity is just something to be cherished. It's a magic that exists for all of us if you see it.
Yeah, and your consciousness about it, and it's
Yes,
what it's all about consciousness, open minded, and
right.
how I am, and my wife, who actually she she's more of a religious person, but since she's been with me, she's
Uh,
she's seen and heard things so that she knows that there's another side to what's going on. So she knows, about my little paranormal things that happen all the time. I was lucky enough, I'll share this. I was lucky enough to pick out 3 scratch offs for my wife, and
uh,
3 out of 4, I picked the numbers and I went and bought the scratch off and I said, this is a winner. And 3 out of 4 times they were winners.
fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm manifesting. I'm trying to
You're
manifest.
tapping into that energy. I
Yeah.
mean, the energy is there. The luck is there. It's always there. We just have to open up to it.
Do you see numbers in your eyes when you open your eyelids, or?
No, I don't. I am dyslexic when it comes to numbers. Give me a word any day. That's fine, but no numbers, please.
All right. All right. Well, uh, Brit Elders, thank you so much for being on the Dave Emmons.
Thank you, Dave. It's been fun.
It has been fun, and and two experiencers together, we can laugh. It's hard to laugh
Absolutely.
when somebody's really serious about an experience. I want them to get their experience out, but when when there's two of us that are experiencers and we're together on these things, we can share a laugh and break up the intensity, sometimes.
Laughter is important.
It is.
It heals the soul. It makes you feel good. It moves you in good directions, sparks thought. Yeah, it's good.
I'm going to close the show by thanking you, Brit Elders, for being on the show.
Thank you.
And I hope that someday we can do this again. And maybe if I get to do some interviewing with that desert program, that convention in another month or so, I might share that one. I'll send you a link to that one Dr. Shipe, maybe.
Please do. Please do.
That's to your email, and I'll send a link to you on that show. Okay. And
That
thank you
would be
so much.
great. Thank you,
Thank you,
Dave.
Brit Elders, and thank you for being on the Strange Reality. And good night, everybody. And thank you for watching.
Good
And
night.
good night.